It hits you on a quiet Tuesday evening. You're sitting in a comfortable chair. The room is the perfect temperature. The refrigerator is full. You have the job, the car, the notifications lighting up your phone, telling you that you are needed, that you are connected, that you are part of the world. And yet there is a hollow ringing in your ears. It's a feeling that doesn't have a name in the medical books. It isn't exactly sadness. It isn't panic. It is something quieter and far more terrifying. It is the sensation of drifting. You look at the life you have built, the accumulation of things, titles and routines, and a single, dangerous question rises from the bottom of your chest. Is this it? We live in an age where we have the means to live, but we have lost a meaning to live for. We have mastered the how, but we have forgotten the why. And when that why is missing, the smallest inconveniences feel like tragedies. A slow internet connection ruins our mood. A rude comment stays with us for days. We are comfortable, yet we are fragile. We are safe, yet we are anxious. To understand why we feel this way, and more importantly, to find the way back to solid ground, we have to leave this comfortable room. We have to go back to a time where comfort did not exist. We have to go to a place where the how of living was stripped away entirely, leaving only the raw, naked soul. We have to walk into the dark to find the light. The guide for this journey is a man named Viktor Frankl. But before he was a guide, before he was a renowned psychiatrist or a best-selling author, he was simply number 11119104 in 1942. Frankl was taken from his home in Vienna and transported to the heart of hell on earth, the Nazi concentration camps. He spent 3 years moving between Auschwitz, Dachau, and others. Most books about this time in history are about the war. They are about the politics, the battles, the dates, and the geography of evil. This is not one of those stories. Frankl did not write a memoir of facts. He wrote a psychological autopsy of the human spirit. He wanted to answer a question that haunts us even now in our safety. When you take a human being and strip them of everything, their name, their clothes, their hair, their family, their dignity, and their future, what is left? Is there a core inside of us that cannot be broken? Or are we just the sum of our circumstances? Frankl wrote his observations on scraps of paper he hid in his coat lining. He watched men die, but more importantly, he watched men choose how they died. And in doing so, he discovered the secret to how we must live. He realized that meaning isn't something you find like a coin on the street. Meaning is something you forge. Let's walk through the 3 phases of this forging process. It begins with the shock of arrival. Imagine the train stops. It is late at night. There is a shriek of steam whistles. The doors fly open, and you are met not with silence but with chaos. Shouting, dogs barking, spotlights blinding you. You are heralded out of the car, clutching your single suitcase, the last remnant of the life you knew. You think, maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe I can explain to them who I am. Maybe I can wake. Frankl calls this the delusion of reprieve. It is the mind's way of clinging to hope when the evidence suggests there is none. We all do this. We cling to our titles, our bank accounts, our social standing, believing these things protect us. But then you reach the selection line. An SS officer stands there, looking casual, perhaps humming a tune. He points a finger. Left, right, left, right. He doesn't look you in the eye. He just looks at your body. Are you strong enough to work, or are you dead weight? 90% of the people, the sick, the elderly, the children, are sent to the left, toward the chimneys, toward the smoke. Frankl was sent to the right, and in that moment, the first great lesson of the camp was carved into him, the stripping of the ego. He tried to hide his manuscript, his life's work, in his coat. He tried to tell a guard, I am a scholar, this book is important. The guard just laughed. He took the coat, he took the manuscript, he took the manuscript, he took Frankl's clothes, he shaved Frankl's head. In less than an hour, the man who was Viktor Frankl, doctor of neurology, was gone. Standing there was a naked human body, shivering, hairless, nothing to distinguish him from the man next to him. This is the myth we tell ourselves in the modern world. I am what I possess. We think, I am a lawyer, I am a mother, I am the owner of this house. We build our entire identity on these external scaffolds. And because we do, we live in constant fear of losing them. We are terrified of bankruptcy, of divorce, of losing a job because we think if we lose the thing, we lose ourselves. But Frankl found the truth flip. When the scaffold is torn down, you do not disappear. In fact, that is the only time you truly appear. Frankl looked around at the other prisoners. They had nothing. No past, no future, no possessions. And yet they were still there. They were what he called naked existence. The application for us is terrifying but necessary. You have to mentally strip yourself. Ask yourself, if I lost my job tomorrow, if my house burned down, If my social media accounts were deleted, who was the person standing in the ashes? If that thought scares you, it means you have invested too much in the costume and not enough in the actor. Frankl realized that life is not asking you what you have. Life is asking you who you are when you have nothing. Once the shock of arrival fades, a new, more dangerous phase sets in. This is the phase of apathy. In the beginning, the prisoners would look away when others were beaten. They would feel a surge of pity, of horror, of rage. They would cry when they thought of their families. But after a few weeks, something changed. Frankl describes watching a man die in the bunk next to him. The man had just passed away. The body was still warm. And the other prisoners? They didn't cry. They didn't pray. One prisoner came over and took the dead man's shoes. Another took his coat. Another grabbed a piece of bread from the dead man's pocket. Frankl watched this, and he just sipped his soup. He felt nothing. This emotional death was a shield. If you felt the horror of every moment, your heart would stop. So the mind builds a callus. It shuts down. You become a machine. You focus only on the most primitive needs: bread, sleep, warmth. We might not be in a concentration camp, but look at the world around you. Look at yourself. How often do you scroll past a tragedy on your phone, feel a microsecond of that sad, and then immediately keep scrolling to a funny video? How often do you sit in a meeting, nodding your head, while your soul is completely checked out? The myth is that suffering is always loud. We think that if someone is in pain, they will be screaming or crying. The truth flip is that the deepest suffering is silent. It is numbness. It is the inability to care. It is the existential vacuum. In the camps, apathy was a survival mechanism. But in our modern world, apathy is a trap. We numb ourselves with entertainment, with substances, with busyness, because we are afraid to feel the weight of our own lives. Frankl noticed that the men who succumbed to apathy, completely the ones who stopped washing, stopped looking up, stopped getting angry, were the ones who died first. They gave up the inner fight. They let the environment swallow them. To survive, Frankl realized he had to force himself to feel, even if it was painful. He had to force his mind to rise above the mud. He would imagine his wife's face. He would have mental conversations with her. He didn't know she was alive or dead, but he kept the relationship alive in his mind. He forced his soul to stay awake. The lesson here is vital. Do not mistake your numbness for peace. If you feel like you are just going through the motions, sleepwalking through your days, you are in danger. You are letting the camp, your job, your routine, your stress dictate your inner world. You have to wake up. You have to choose to care, even if caring hurts, because the ability to feel is the only thing that proves you are still alive. And this leads us to the most profound discovery Frankl made, the concept that changed psychology forever. Imagine a gray dawn. The prisoners are stumbling to the work site. Their feet are swollen. They are starving. The guards are shouting, beating them with rifle butts. The cold cuts through their thin rags. Everything about the situation screams, you are a victim. You are a slave. You have no power. The environment controls everything. It tells them when to eat, when to sleep, when to die. But Frankl watched closely. He saw that most men were broken by this, but not all. There were men who walked through the huts, comforting others. There were men who gave away their last piece of bread. Think about that. A man who is starving to death, whose body is eating itself, takes his only source of life and gives it to someone else. How is that possible? If we are just products of our environment, if we are just biological machines reacting to stimuli, that man should be fighting for the bread, not giving it away. This shattered the myth of determinism. We are told constantly that we are the result of our past. I have a bad temper because my father had a bad temper. I am anxious because the economy is bad. I am unhappy because my boss is a tyrant. We act as if we are billiard balls, just being knocked around by the physics of the world. Frankl presents The Truth Flip, the last of the human freedoms. He wrote, everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Between the stimulus, the hunger, the cold, the traffic, the insult, and the response, your reaction, there is a space. In that space lies our power and our freedom. The guards could control Frankl's body. They could starve him. They could freeze him, but they could not force him to hate them. They could not force him to lose his dignity. That was his territory. He realized that a human being is not a thing among things. We are self-determining. When a prisoner gave away his bread, he was making a declaration. He was saying, you can take my calories, but you cannot take my humanity. This is the hardest lesson to apply because it removes our favorite excuse. It removes the victim card. It means that no matter how difficult your life is right now, no matter the heartbreak, the financial struggle, the health issues. You are not a victim of those circumstances. You are the master of your attitude toward them. You cannot control the waves, but you can choose how you sail the ship. So we stand here, stripped of our illusions. We know that our possessions are not us. We know that numbness is not peace. We know that we have the freedom to choose our response, no matter how dark the room gets. But knowing this is not enough, because even if you have the freedom to choose, you still need a reason to choose it. Why bother? If life is suffering, and Frankl admits that suffering is an ineradicable part of life, like death and taxes, then what is the point of enduring it? Why shouldn't the prisoner just run into the electric fence and end it? Why shouldn't we just give up on our dreams and settle for the easy path? Frankl faced this question on the hardest nights in the camp, when the darkness was total, when the cold was biting. He had to find something that made the suffering meaningful. He had to discover a logic that could turn tragedy into triumph. And the answer he found is the key to unlocking the cage of modern emptiness. It is the concept that saved his life, and it is the only concept that can save ours. He called it logotherapy. But to understand it, we have to look at the future. We have to look at what is pulling us forward, because, as Frankl whispered to himself in the dark, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Let that sentence hang in the air for a moment. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. We are still standing in the cold with Frankl. We have realized that they can take our clothes, our name, and our dignity, but they cannot take our freedom to choose our attitude. But attitude alone is not enough to survive the winter. You need a target. You need a future to pull you through the present. This brings us to the great reversal. Most of us walk through life with our hand out. We treat life like a vending machine. We put in our effort, our time, our good behavior, and we wait for life to drop the reward. We ask, what is the meaning of life? What does life have to offer me? And when life gives us tragedy instead of treasure, we feel cheated. We feel the universe has broken its contract. Frankl looked at the men who died and the men who survived, and he realized we have the question backward. This is the Copernican turn of psychology. It is not you who asks life the question. It is life that is asking you. Every situation, every hour, every challenge is a question that life is posing to you, and you must answer it. Not with words and not with meditation, but with right action. Think of life like a game of chess. If you walked up to a grandmaster and asked, what is the best move in chess? They would look at you with confusion. There is no best move in the abstract. There is only the best move for the specific board configuration. There is only the best move right now. Your life is the board. The cancer diagnosis, the lost job, the difficult child, the empty apartment that is the board you've been given. It is useless to wish for a different board. The only question that matters is, what is the best move I can make right now? This shifts the weight of existence. You are no longer a victim waiting for rescue. You are the one being questioned. You are the one who must respond. This is why Frankl calls his method responsibleness. The meaning of your life is not a vague destination you find in your 60s. It is the specific answer you give to the problem standing in front of you today. So the application here is a shift in your morning routine. Stop waking up and asking, what do I want from today? Start waking up and asking, what does today want from me? Maybe today wants you to be patient with a difficult partner. Maybe today wants you to finish a project you are afraid of. Maybe today simply wants you to endure pain with dignity. Answer the question. That is where meaning lives. But now we must confront the most uncomfortable truth of all, the midpoint twist. If you live in the West, particularly in America, you are swimming in a culture that worships one God above all others, happiness. We are told that the goal of life is to be happy, to feel good, to be comfortable, to be vibing. We have an entire industry, self-help books, pharmaceuticals, entertainment designed to manufacture happiness. And Frankl suggests that this obsession with happiness is exactly why we are so miserable. He calls it the paradox of hedonism. Imagine you are trying to catch a butterfly. If you run after it, thrashing your net, you will scare it away. You will never catch it. But if you sit still and focus on your garden, if you tend to the flowers, the butterfly might land on your shoulder. Happiness is the butterfly. You cannot pursue happiness directly. It is a byproduct. It is the unintended side effect of dedicating yourself to a cause greater than yourself, or to a person other than yourself. When you focus on being happy, you turn your attention inward. You start monitoring your own emotions. Am I happy now? What about now? Why aren't I happier? This hyper-reflection kills the very feeling you are chasing. In the camps, the men who focused on their own survival, their own hunger, their own misery, They crumbled. The men who focused on a future task, a book to write, a child to see, a friend to help, found a strength that defied biology. This forces us to reinterpret our own bad days. If you are feeling empty, it is not because you lack dopamine. It is because you lack a mission. You are trying to be happy instead of trying to be useful. Frankl offers us 3 specific avenues to find this meaning. To plant the garden that attracts the butterfly. The first is clear: creating a work or doing a deed. This is your contribution to the world. It's the script you write, the business you build, the house you clean. The second is experiencing something or encountering someone. This is love. This is nature. This is the moment you stand before a mountain or look into your child's eyes and realize that the world is good. But it is the third avenue that challenges us the most. What happens when you cannot create? What happens when you are locked in a cell or a hospital bed and you cannot experience beauty? When suffering is unavoidable. This brings us to the deepest lesson of the book. Suffering is an achievement. Let me tell you a story Frankl shares. It is a quiet story, but it cuts deep. Years after the war, an elderly doctor came to see Frankl. The man was in a deep depression. He had lost his wife 2 years earlier, and he loved her above all else. He could not get over the loss. He was paralyzed by grief. Frankl did not prescribe him pills. He did not tell him to move on. He simply asked him a question. "Doctor, what would have happened if you had died first and your wife had survived you?" The man said, "Oh, that would have been terrible. She would have suffered so much. She would have been destroyed." Frankl looked at him and said, "You see, doctor, you have spared her that suffering. But now you must pay for it by surviving and mourning her." The man said nothing. He shook Frankl's hand and left the office. His pain was exactly the same. The loss was exactly the same. But the meaning of the pain had changed. It was no longer pointless torture. It was a sacrifice. He was suffering so that she did not have to. This is the alchemy of meaning. Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. This is a hard truth, but a liberating one. We spend so much energy trying to avoid pain, trying to drug it away or distract ourselves from it. We think pain is a sign of failure. The truth flip is that the way you bear your suffering is a genuine inner achievement. It is perhaps the highest achievement. When you are facing something unchangeable, an incurable disease, a bankruptcy, a heartbreak, you are given an opportunity, the opportunity to demonstrate the human capacity to turn tragedy into a triumph. The application is not to seek suffering that is masochism. But when suffering finds you, do not just endure it. Frame it, give it a name. I am bearing this pain so my children don't have to. I am enduring this hardship to build a stronger character for my future self. When you give your suffering a purpose, you take away its power to destroy you. So, we come to the end of the journey. We started in the comfortable room, feeling the hollow ache of the modern void. We traveled to the frozen mud of Auschwitz to find the naked human soul. We learned that we are not our possessions. We learned that we are not victims of our environment. We learned that happiness is a trap if you chase it directly. And we learned that even in the deepest darkness, we have the power to light a candle by finding a why. Viktor Frankl survived the camps. He went back to Vienna. He wrote his book in 9 days because the words were burning inside him. He died an old man, full of years and full of meaning. He left us with a final image. He said that the United States has a Statue of Liberty on the East Coast. It stands for freedom, the great ideal of the West. But freedom is only half the story. Freedom without purpose is chaos. Freedom without responsibility is just drifting. So, Frankl suggested that on the West Coast we need a second statue, the statue of responsibility. You are free. You are terrifyingly free. But that freedom demands that you answer the call of your own life. So, here is the question that will linger with you tonight, long after this video ends. The question isn't what do you want from life. The question is, what is waiting for you to do that only you can do? There is a book that needs writing, a child that needs raising, a pain that needs bearing, a business that needs building. It is waiting for you. Stop asking why. Start answering who. If this journey into the human spirit resonated with you, if you felt that shift in perspective, don't let it evaporate. Meaning is a muscle. It must be exercised. I want you to leave a comment below with one simple thing. What is the task life is asking of you right now? Not a goal, but a responsibility. Let's build a library of purpose in the comments. See you there.